Okay, this is another video in the Salesforce developer series, and I'm starting to kind of merge it a little bit with complementary tools. I think they're using AWS and other tools are going to be critical in just being a successful Salesforce developer and pretty much any type of cloud developer. So it's probably good that we go ahead and start incorporating some of these other tools, and I have a lot of fun with it and some of these things together. So I'm gonna this is actually a continuation of yesterday's video, where if you can take a look back at the last one in the playlist. But basically yesterday I created a job application form, a very simple scaled down version of one in a Salesforce experience builder site. Basically the user or the candidate will submit the job application, submit it, and it'll go into Salesforce as a job application custom object using a flow. So basically that application form is basically a flow screen flow. What we're doing today is that we're taking that same data and we're posting it over to AWS, and just like I did the platform events where I had the platform events sync with AWS, a DynamoDB database using external objects. And this time I'm actually using change data capture to use that publish subscriber model to sync data between Salesforce and AWS. In this case, I actually use an S3 bucket, and which basically from the S3 bucket. In another video later, I'm going to use I'm going to write a Python script that takes the updates to the S3 bucket, certain updates to this S3 bucket, and runs a script. And basically that will be an AWS Lambda script, a Lambda script that will push the data over into DynamoDB. So that's going to be a little later. For right now, I'm just pushing it into S3. There are a lot of different components to that. So let's run through the user story. Basically, as a recruiter, I would like to update our main database with changes to Salesforce job applications. Now, if I were to choose, I would say that using external objects would be better in this case because it was just simpler to set up. You do have to have the external object, and for change data capture, you don't have to have that extra in Salesforce object. You can basically just use any custom object and most standard objects to do that. The acceptance criteria is Salesforce job application object data will be copied over to AWS. And the deliverable, we set up change data capture in Salesforce. We set up an event relay with authentication credentials, basically name credentials and an external credential attached to that. And then we created the name relay in the setup of Salesforce. In AWS there was a lot more involved, which is actually kind of nice to actually get familiar with the integration tools that are what they considered almost native in Salesforce, because these are out of the box. You can run AWS integrations like I did with DynamoDB in the platform events video, and here I use AppFlow in AWS. AppFlow is basically kind of like a routing tool to route data, and EventBridge which was what linked Salesforce to AWS, and it was actually kind of easy to authenticate. I was able to just do that through kind of a wizard, rather than having to do what Salesforce usually requires to authenticate from external applications. Is when you have to use OAuth. You have to get a token using username, password, and also a bearer token, and that is kind of laborious. So in this case, we were able to just authenticate using a wizard. I set up EventBridge. I set up an S3 bucket and CloudWatch, which I'm not going to demo, but basically CloudWatch was just a logging tool, which is pretty cool. You security folks are probably very familiar with that. I'm actually kind of interested in learning to use that a lot more, and maybe even linking that up with Splunk or something else in the future. So that's kind of fun to play around with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the demo. So here, this is the same application as yesterday, the application in Experience Builder. I'm actually not going to push that yet, but I'm going to show a couple other things. Here's the bridge. This is basically the event relay that we set up, and is you see is currently running. And to do that, we just went here and hit new event relay, and then you're able to monitor it here. And then you got event manager, and we should be able to monitor that in here as well. So there's a couple different ways you can monitor the event relay. But let's go ahead over to AWS, because that's where a lot of this had to get set up. This is the event bridge, and this is where Salesforce and AWS shake hands, and it's kind of, like I said, it's out of the box. You basically set it up on the Salesforce side, and then once you authenticate, it'll show up in your AWS environment as long as you have the right permissions. So as you can see here, this partner, basically a partner event bus will populate, and then you just link it to your environment. It'll show up, and then you just have to link it. Just an extra step, but it's pretty much just clicking a button. So that was pretty interesting. In addition to the event bridge, we also have to use app flow, and an app flow is basically just that. It's a flow where you have to create some steps, and there's a lot of configuration involved, but it's mostly native with Salesforce at this point. So here are the field mappings. Basically, this is the fields that are getting mapped over from Salesforce. They're converted into JSON, and they're going to get routed wherever we choose to route them. And in this case, we actually chose an S3 bucket, as you can see here. Okay, so that's the basic configuration. There's a lot more detail to that, but we'll go ahead and peek at the S3 bucket as well. This is the S3 bucket. Each of the changes come in as a folder, as you can see here. Here's one of them that I set up earlier, and so I am going to go ahead and set up we'll go ahead and walk through the process now, all the way from soup to nuts. So let's go with James Comey. James Comey is the the applicant this time. And he worked for CIA, FBI. That was his name, right? I'm not sure, but I think it was FBI. He was the director or whatever, but he got demoted. We'll just call him an analyst. And because I only had 3 jobs in the system right now, just because it's demo. But we'll go ahead and hit push and or submit and finish it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the system. And here's James Comey. Here's his record, and oops, let me show you this related record. There's a job application that was created, and there's that. And let's go ahead and create some notes. James is a good candidate. All right, so we'll go ahead and create some notes. So we made a change. So we submitted it, which was an insert or a create, and then we updated it with some notes. And so let's go ahead and peek over into our S3 bucket. Okay, this is the one that we had before, and let's go ahead and refresh. So now we got 2 more, and basically it's 2 because I made the update as well. So let's go ahead and look at the most recent one. This is the most recent one, so this is the change. So we'll go ahead in there, and then we'll open it. Basically, you have to open it inside the system, otherwise you'll get a permissions error. And if you can see that, basically this is the update and it'll tell you notes were updated. And we can go ahead and look at the other one. So if we go and look at the other one, let's see, that was, okay, this one's the other one. And this is the first one, this is the insert. So we'll go ahead and open that. Pop that open here. All right, so and here's the applicant. We'll go ahead and we'll query the applicant just so you can confirm that it's the one that we just created. And there's the rest of the transaction data. So let's go ahead over to developer org. I have a query set up here, basically just querying for first name, last name, and ID. And we'll go ahead and execute that, and you see who that is. It's James Comey. So that's the record, and basically I'm just showing you how we were able to create an application here in the Experience Cloud, how that data got pushed over into Salesforce, how the application got created, and if we were also to create another application for that same candidate, then that new application will get attached to the same record. So there is some logic involved in that flow. If you look at yesterday's video, we also created an event bridge over in AWS. We created an app flow that handles the routing, and we created a resting place, a temporary resting place for the data, which is in S3 bucket. And like I said earlier, in a later video down the road, I will show how we're going to use a Python script within an AWS Lambda function to take that data when it gets inserted and route it over to DynamoDB into a table there. So that's it. This has been a lot of fun, and I will probably have the next one out for you tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure what the next one is, but let's go ahead and let me see if I can give you an update before I end this. Yeah, we have a screen flow again, but it's going to be with a Lightning Web Component. So that's going to be the next video, most likely tomorrow. If you have any questions about any of this, if you're interested in how you can get some of this integration done in your org, let me know. I am really easy to catch. I'll be on LinkedIn where I'll post this, also on YouTube, and also at clouddominant.com. So thanks a lot, and I will talk to you later. Bye.